Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to UnhingedGaming, where today's video is not going to have anything to do with gaming whatsoever. There's not even going to be gameplay overlaying my commentary like there usually is, but if there's one thing I love more than gaming and controversy, it's music. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, and it's also going to involve some controversy too, because I'm talking about a very controversial individual. So who I'm talking about today is actually Eminem, Slim Shady, whatever name you want him to go by, Marshall Mathers. In any case, he just pretty recently, announced a new album, and he's released two singles recently. So this is actually the first part in a three-part series, where I'm going to be covering his two latest singles as well as the finale. It's going to be like a full artist review and kind of a prediction for what his album's going to be. So today I'm going to be talking about Walk on Water. And then I'm also going to be talking about Untouchable. That'll be another video that'll go up. I'm going to try to have it go up about 10 minutes after this one. And then the full artist review is either going to come out later tonight or on Thursday. So today, this is just kind of a full review of Walk on Water, which climbed very quickly to his #1 song on Spotify. And I have some opinions of why that is, because if you really focus on it, like, all in all, it's not his best song. His rhymes aren't his best rhymes, even the rhythm isn't the best that it's been. But the content, the emotion behind it is very much there, and that's something a lot of people, as a musician, it's so important. If you're not feeling it, your audience is not going to be feeling it. And I feel like that's a lot of what the song is really about, because there's what's on the surface, and then there's what's kind of under the surface. And I've listened to a lot of Eminem's music. I've listened to some of his old stuff. Full disclosure, I could not listen to a lot of his old stuff just because it's so dark, and it brings me to kind of a dark place in my past. But I did listen to some of it to get an idea of how he started. I've listened to a lot of his less disturbing modern stuff. And there's definitely been an interesting progression. And in the last video of the series, I'm going to talk more about that and about kind of the evolution just of the past, like, 3 or 4 years. So Walk on Water is essentially about, and I'll have it linked down below if you want to listen to the full song and kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. It's a lot of what some of his recent stuff has been about. On the surface, it's very much, that he doesn't have anything left to say that he hasn't already said. But there's something underlying that I kind of picked up on, that this is just a theory, and whenever you're interpreting any art form, it's going to be your interpretation. It's not necessarily going to be what the artist is thinking or intending. Sometimes the artist doesn't even know exactly what they're trying to get across. They're just putting their emotions into lyrics, and you take it however you take it. So obviously, as with any review of any art, take it with a grain of salt. But what I see in a lot of these lines is this idea of there's a lot of this idea of how he's not feeling like he's meeting the bar anymore, and how he, there's a few lines like
kids look to me as a god. This is retarded. If only they knew it's a facade and it's exhausting.
All of that, and I think a big part of it that's there is that he's always, and this is something that a lot of artists go through in the music industry, particularly ones who their main emotion in their music is anger, is they reach a point where they feel like they're starting to lose relevance because the things that drove them to start making music aren't driving them anymore. Their anger has burnt out, or, like, look at Metallica, for example. They went from heavy metal to just ordinary rock. When a lot of the band members, like, started families and stuff like that, they just kind of mellowed out. And they eventually came back around to where now they're still not as heavy as like old Metallica, but they're kind of in between. Same goes for Green Day. I'm a huge Green Day fan. Their stuff has mellowed out a ton since they started. Like, old Green Day is, like, super like textbook punk, angry, protest, nonconformist, yada yada yada. And now it's, you know, it's still protest, but it's super melodic and it's a lot mellower. It's not nearly as angry. It's more like peace activist. So it shifts a lot as musicians age. And I don't necessarily think it's an age thing. It's just you start caring about other things at different points in your life. And I feel like that's a big part of what's happening to Eminem, because you can tell that he's just not as pissed off as he was in the beginning. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think that there are things that he could rap about that are actually really powerful and can be really good messages that he could kind of fuel with that. And that I'll get more into that in the next couple of videos that has to do with my prediction, but I feel like that's a big part of what Walk on Water is really about, is this idea of turning a new leaf. And the reason why, another like more things kind of pointing to that, is the fact that his new, unless I'm mistaken, I believe this is the timing of everything, he announced his new album, Revival, which will be his first album in like close to 5 years. And that was announced not too long after Walk on Water was released. And so it was this idea of like, how can I, because that was another thing.
How do I ever let this mic go without a fight? When I made a fucking tightrope out of twine.
That was one of the lines. And there's this idea of like, you know, am I lucky to be around this long? This idea of like, what should I do? Like, can I just let this go? Have I had a good run, or do I need to keep fighting for getting this back? And then to have Revival be announced shortly after that, and have that be the name of the album, where it's like a rebirth sort of thing. I really like the way that kind of lines up, and I feel like that points to that even more. And I think that it will absolutely be in the album. That's my prediction anyway, that Walk on Water will be one of the songs in the album. And then, you know, the having Beyonce in there too was a really cool thing, featuring her in that song. I feel like it really added to it, and it creates something different, because Beyonce, I feel like, wouldn't stand for a lot of what Eminem says in his songs. So for her to be working with him, I feel points more to that. And the final thing that I'll say is very interesting is the last lines of the song come after what seems like the end, and then it starts back up for a short period of time, and he references Stan. And it's with his same anger of I'm
just a man, but as long as I got a mic, I'm godlike. So me and you are not alike, bitch. I wrote Stan.
So there was that, where what I found really interesting, that he referenced Stan as kind of like his masterpiece, right? Of like, I won't be lumped in with you because I wrote this song. And Stan actually happens to be a song that in a Rolling Stone interview at the end, the last verse, where he is basically writing Stan back, and he's saying, you know, maybe you should get some counseling, and I hope this reaches you before you do something crazy. Obviously, it didn't, spoiler alert. Most of his songs don't have happy endings. So what I found interesting about that is that in a Rolling Stone interview about that song, he said that he felt like that verse represented the real him. And so to reference that song as your masterpiece, where he's basically saying this gentler side, this sensitive side, where I'm like trying to help this guy, is the real me, I feel like greater adds to the story of like what he wants to do with his music now that his anger isn't getting him what it used to get him. So that's just kind of my whole wrap on the whole thing. All in all, I think it is a great song. It's, again, it's not like the rhymes and the rhythm and everything aren't as good as some of his songs, but it makes my hair stand up every time I listen to it, because the emotion is there, and it's so different from most of his music, where it's like, it's a lot slower, and it's almost melancholy instead of like pissed off, and it really paints a good picture of what he's feeling as he's rapping. and I really like that. And I also really like the music in the background. The track is really well set up. I like having him in the background. It's kind of reminiscent of some of his older stuff, such as Stan, where like you've got the scribbling in the background of someone writing a letter. Where here you have him crumpling up notes that are presumably songs that aren't good enough, and all of that. All in all, I think it's a great song. It's really well put together. And the story behind, like the story that he's telling, is really well put together, and I feel like there's so much emotion there. I really enjoyed it. I've listened to it quite a number of times, and I look forward to talking about it some more in my final video. But already I've rambled on about it longer than I intended to. So if you guys did enjoy this video, you can let me know in the comments down below your take on the whole thing, your opinions of the song, your opinions on my predictions and my theories. And if you did enjoy, make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe if you want to see more content, and hit the notification bell. I upload new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on a broad range of topics. Generally, they're podcasts, played over gameplay, but I might do some more music stuff if you guys want me to. In the meantime, I've been Unhinged Gaming, and I will see you next time.